Once upon a time, in a small kingdom far away, there was a child named Alara. Alara was not like the other children in the village. She had strange, piercing eyes that seemed to see right through people, and her presence often brought with it a sense of unease. Whenever Alara was nearby, things would go wrong, crops would wither, animals would fall ill, and storms would come out of nowhere. The villagers began to believe that Alara was cursed, and they feared her deeply. As she grew older, the villagers' fear turned into hatred. They blamed Alara for every misfortune that befell them: sick livestock, poor harvests, even bad luck at the market. Mothers would pull their children away from her, and the elders would whisper about how she was a bad omen. Alara's parents, though they loved her, were powerless against the rising tide of superstition and fear. They began to keep her hidden away, hoping that the villagers would forget about her and that peace would return to their lives. But peace was not to be found. One summer, a terrible drought struck the kingdom. The rivers dried up, the fields turned to dust, and the sky was a relentless, burning blue for months on end. The villagers struggled to survive, rationing their food and water, praying for rain that never came. To make matters worse, a strange illness began to spread among them, taking the lives of the weak and the elderly. Desperate and afraid, the villagers sought someone to blame, and their thoughts turned to Alara. "She's the cause of all this," they cried. "The curse is real, and it's destroying us. We must get rid of her before it's too late." The village elders, under pressure from the frightened people, made a terrible decision. They decided that Alara must be banished from the kingdom. So, one dark night, they took Alara from her home while she slept, binding her hands and blindfolding her. Without a word of explanation or a chance to say goodbye, they carried her deep into the forest that bordered the kingdom and left her there, alone and afraid. Alara woke up in the cold, damp forest, confused and terrified. She called out for her parents, for anyone, but there was no answer. The forest was thick and dark, filled with the sounds of creatures she had never heard before. But as she stumbled through the underbrush, a strange thing happened. The plants seemed to lean toward her, and the animals that crossed her path did not flee in fear. Days passed, and Alara wandered deeper into the forest. She survived by drinking from streams and eating berries, and though she was lonely and scared, she began to notice something odd. Wherever she went, the plants grew greener and the streams flowed clearer. It was as if her presence was healing the land. Slowly, she began to realize that the curse the villagers had feared was not a curse at all, but a gift, one she did not yet fully understand. As time passed, Alara grew stronger. She learned to live in harmony with the forest, and the creatures there became her friends. She no longer felt the sting of loneliness, but she could not forget the village she had once called home. She often thought of her parents and wondered what had become of them. Had the rains returned? Was the drought over? Were the people still suffering? Then, one day, as Alara was gathering herbs by a stream, she heard the sound of footsteps, human footsteps. She hid behind a tree, her heart pounding, and watched as a group of villagers came into view. They looked tired and desperate, their clothes ragged, their faces gaunt from hunger. To her shock, among them were the village elders, including the very men who had ordered her banishment. The villagers did not see her at first, but they spoke in hushed, urgent tones. "We must find her," one of the elders said. "The drought continues, and more are dying every day. The crops have failed, and the river is nearly gone. We were wrong to banish her. The curse has only grown stronger since she left." "But what if she refuses to return?" another villager asked. "We treated her so badly, she may not forgive us." "We have no choice," the elder replied. "Without her, we are doomed." Alara's heart ached at their words. They had come all this way into the dangerous forest to find her, and despite everything they had done to her, she knew she could not turn her back on them. Stepping out from behind the tree, Alara revealed herself to the villagers. They gasped in surprise and fear, some even falling to their knees in desperation. "Please, Alara," the eldest of them begged, We were wrong to banish you. We see that now. The drought, the illness, it has all gotten worse since you left. We need you to save us." Elara looked at the villagers, their faces filled with regret and sorrow. Despite the pain they had caused her, she could see that they were truly desperate. Taking a deep breath, she nodded. "I will help you," she said softly, "but you must understand that I was never cursed. I have a gift, and I can use it to heal the land, but I need your trust and your help." The villagers, humbled and grateful, agreed. Together, they returned to the village. The journey was long and difficult, but as they walked, Elara's presence began to work its magic. The trees along their path grew taller and greener, the air became cooler, and the ground softened beneath their feet. By the time they reached the village, a gentle rain had begun to fall, a rain that had been absent for so long. When they arrived, the villagers gathered around Elara, watching in awe as she moved through the fields, touching the earth and whispering words of healing. Where her hands touched, the soil grew rich and fertile, and new sprouts began to push through the ground. The river, which had been a mere trickle, swelled with fresh, clear water. Elara worked tirelessly, using her gift to heal the sick, mend the land, and bring life back to the village. The drought slowly came to an end, and the illness that had plagued the people began to fade. The villagers, once filled with fear and hatred, now looked at Elara with awe and reverence. They realized that she had been their only hope all along. In time, Elara became the most respected and loved person in the kingdom. She was no longer seen as a curse, but as a blessing, a healer of the land and its people. The villagers learned to cherish and protect her, understanding that her gift was something rare and precious. Under her care, the kingdom flourished, and the people prospered. And so, Elara's story became a legend. The girl who had once been feared and banished became the savior of her people. Her tale was passed down through generations as a reminder that true power often comes in unexpected forms, and that what we fear may be the very thing that saves us in the end.